Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I'm going back to a dark time in European history. That's more precisely the World War I. In Heroes of the Great Wall, Limanowa 1914, 2 to 4 players are refighting the Battle of Limanowa between the Austro-Hungarian army, who successfully defeated the Russian army and thus stopped the advance towards Krakow. And that's only a very high-level overview about the events back then in 1914, but in this game, two teams with up to 2 players each try to outsmart each other in order to gain control over Galicia near the Carpathian Mountains, and that's not the Spanish Galicia, by the way. The game is designed, and I really hope I pronounced those names as correctly as possible, by Norbert Scheder, Balázs Mischinger, Robert Schimo and András Mucsiczka, and is currently on Kickstarter, and of course you will find a link to the campaign in the description of this video. When playing the full game, this can be a relatively long one. But there are different 2-player scenarios available which focus only on one particular region of the map, but then you would not get the full picture of this game. So I think I will just demonstrate a couple of rounds, and I think I will show you some of the artillery reactions, some close combat, some movement, and I really hope that this should give you a decent overview about this beauty here. Speaking of a Kickstarter, here's the usual disclaimer for prototype-based previews, so everything you see here is part of a prototype, and a lot of components are not necessarily representing the final look and feel of the product. And even though the artwork on the cards, the rules, some of those overviews is really simply awesome, and I really fell in love with it the first time I saw it. And by the way, the masterminds behind the artwork are Öden Heinal, and again I really hope I pronounced those names right, Mark Basagi, Mate Postein, made by Vinci. The units that you see on the board are 2-sided, and the current view you see here shows the unit in a more, let's call it, abstract form, whereas the other side, and I think I have a unit here like this one, the line infantry, shows a pretty nice artwork. But as some cards refer to those icons here on those tokens, I rather prefer to play with this side up. And if that's not enough, you can go all in and grab yourself an add-on or a pledge level that comes with those here. You can get this game with nice little miniatures instead of that token. From what I understood, the core game will more or less be represented by those tokens, but you can really get an add-on or pledge level that comes with those minis here, and there will be plenty of those, that's for sure. What you see here is the recommended setup for your first game for, let's say, the full basic game. This works pretty well, but if you are getting more experienced, you can follow a more, let's say, freestyle setup, but still within certain boundaries. But I think now we can basically get started, and I think I want to demo this game in a 2-player game mode. It's not really different to what you do when you play it with all 4 players. There is only, let's say, a slight reductions in the amount of battle cards you get for each team, because each of the players will now control one entire side. So one player will control the 4th Austro-Hungarian army that's trying to defend Limanowa, and also the 3rd Austro-Hungarian army, so Kaiserlich und Königliche Armee, that's trying to make a run for Bardva here, and this is the dark blue chips here. The second player will control the 8th Tsarist army that's trying to conquer Limanowa, and also the 7th Tsarist army that's trying to defend Bardva here. There are additional goals other than just conquering Limanowa or taking Bardva here, but I will come to that in a second. The only real difference in a 2-player game is that the Austro-Hungarian player starts the game with 3 of those battle cards, and the Tsarist player starts the game with 5 cards. Normally it would be 3 cards each for each of those armies. For the Austro-Hungarian player, that's 2 and 2. But again, as you can use those cards now for both of your armies, it's slightly reduced, but only from the setup. On top of this, each of the armies starts with 4 of those railway tokens, which you can use to move your troops along those railway lines from station to stations. There are some very restrictive rules on how you can use those, and again, you only have 4 of those tokens for the entirety of the game, so you will not use them that often, only really when you want, you really want to make those count. There are 3 ways in order to win this game. First one being to occupy those strategic targets. There are 5 strategic targets on the board, and whoever controls 4 at the end of a turn is automatically the winner. A turn is really when all the players have taken their rounds. The, let's say, strategic targets on the hand of the Austro-Hungarian side is Limanowa and Podolin. I will show them to you on the board. And on the hand of the Imperial Russian side here, so the Tsarist army, is Bartva, Golice and Noy Sandes. And again, I really hope I pronounced those names at least kind of correct. The second way to win this game is to destroy the so-called supply line. So whenever you control 8 target fields, and those can be among strategic and tactical goals, also win the game. And I will also show you these tactical target fields once we move over to the game board. And the last way to win this game is really wiping out an entire army group. So if one of the players destroys a whole army group, let's say those dark blue ones here, then you would also win this game at the end of the turn. Speaking of strategic goals, you will always recognize those by those red and blue or red and green outline here. Limanowa is clearly a strategic goal. So when the whatever green player with dark green or light green moves into Limanowa, there is no other troop or enemy troop present there, then he occupies Limanowa and more or less holds 1/5 of the final goal of one of those. The first player to get there, or first enemy player to get there, so in this case, for example, the dark green player gets a bonus that's written here. So in this case, this player gets 2 battle cards, which are really, really powerful. And down here, here's another strategic goal in Podolin, basically also currently held by the Austro-Hungarian player. But there are 3 strategic goals that are currently held by the Tsarist army. So we have Noy Sandes here, we have Golice up there, and we also have Bartva down there. This is really a city that can be taken relatively fast by the, I think it's the 3rd Austro-Hungarian army. But of course, you still have to keep them until the end of a turn. So it's not just enough to get in there and whatever, grab this token, get the bonus. No, of course, you have to hold them until the end of a turn in order to determine a winner. On top of those strategic goals, there are also some of those tactical goals that provide you some, let's say, benefits. Of course, first of all, you can win the game by holding 8 of, let's say, those enemy tactical goals like those blue ones here. Those are the goals that have to be taken by the Tsarist army. And again, if you hold a combination of 8 of those tacticals and or strategic goals, you can also win this game. But on top of this, you also get a bonus when you first conquer it. So if the Tsarist army moves into, what is it, Szepespela, then he gets a additional battle card here, and if he occupies Kazmark here, he also gets 1 basic unit, which he could put back to the resupply field. Resupplying in this game is incredibly difficult. You really have to work with what you have. There are some cards, some battle cards in the game that gives you some resupplies, but to be honest, that's pretty much it. It won't happen that often that you get additional groups to really make them count. On the Austro-Hungarian side, there is this Krakow reinforcement track and whatever at the start of each activation of the 4th Austro-Hungarian army. This player rolls a die, and depending on what he rolls, he can progress on this token here. And once this token reaches space 9, then this would mean this player can send in 3 more troops to the resupply area of the 4th Austro-Hungarian army. Take some time, that's for sure. 9 turns can be pretty long. Yeah, that's for the setup, that's for our victory conditions. I think we can get started. Each turn begins with the 8th Tsarist army attacking at Limanowa, though they will always go first. And the phases within each round, so again, a round is a round that each individual player takes are the opening phase, the central phase, so this is where really the action happens, and we have some kind of a closing phase. Normally you use the opening and the closing phase in order to play one of those battle cards, and that's more or less it. I think there are some effects in play that might interfere or might relate to the opening or the closing phase, but the central phase is really the bread and butter in this game. And yeah, you see it here again in the opening phase. The attacker may use a battle card, then the defender may use a battle card, and what's really important to remember, you can only ever play one battle card in each given round. So if the attacker now plays a battle card here, he cannot play another battle card in the later central phase or in the clothing phase. The same would apply for the defender. So if the defender, whatever, uses a battle card here in the opening phase, he will also not be able to use another card in the central phase. Those two icons are also important because this tells you that you can only play this particular type of card if you are the attacker. So those icons are printed on those battle cards, and the same would apply for these green cards. So when you have a card, whatever, if you are the defender and have a card like this, apparently you cannot use it if you are the defender and want to use it in the opening phase. In the central phase, the attacker may select up to 3 actions now, so this has changed since this rulebook has been written and really helps speed up the game. That's really important. And yeah, those actions can be identical, so there can be a move action, it can be a railway action, or it can be an artillery action. Then this player can also select a battle card to play, but there's also a way to discard battle cards in order to draw one, but I come to that in a second too. But also remember, if the attacker already played a card in the opening phase, he can no longer do that. And then we may select close combat actions. Those close combat actions are unlimited, so whatever, with those 3 actions, you want to make sure that you get as close as possible to the defender, and then you can basically overrun them with your infantry and your cavalry. After that, the defender may use a battle card, again, if he has not played a battle card already. So he always gets to react, so he can wait and see what the attacker does. And then we would do all those actions in the following order. We would do the battle card actions, we would do the move actions, and we would do the railway actions, and we would do the artillery actions. And last but not least, we would see some close combat. And it's really important to follow those from the top to the bottom. It's also important that you always have to plan all your steps here, so the defender always knows what the attacker is up to. There's no way, unless of course you're playing some of those cards here, to change your plans later on. If you find yourself, whatever, defender playing a card, then you can no longer reconsider, oh no, then I don't want to attack that unit anymore. That's not possible. Okie dokie, let's start the opening phase for the 8th Tsarist Russian army. And I think we actually want to play a card right now. So we will play a card. Keep in mind, this is the only card that this army can now play this round. So let's see what it is. And here we have a so-called artillery card. You will definitely be able to tell the difference because those artillery cards are kind of lighter in shading and they come with this kind of handwriting style here. Here it says this time it has to be played in the opening phase or in the preparatory phase. It says here now, but that's pretty much the same thing. As commander of the artillery battalion, I order you to implement the following command. Disruptive fire attack. An artillery unit shall launch an artillery attack against an enemy unit within range. In the event of a successful fire attack, the attack unit shall lose one health point pretty much and must move away 1 field from your artillery while not moving next to another enemy unit. And should it be unable to do so, it shall use an additional, let's say, life point here. All of those units can basically take up to 3 hits. If they take a 4th hit, then they would be removed from the game. This is being represented by those tokens here. So this represents 1 hit, or it's a replacement point, more or less. This is what's referred to. This would represent the 2nd hit. This would represent the 3rd hit. And again, if this same unit then takes another hit, then it would be removed from the battlefield. You would stick them right into this slot here. Works really, really well. And every player will immediately see how wounded this unit actually is. But we still get to play our disruptive fire attack. So first of all, we have to choose an artillery unit. And I think I will go for this M1877 here. This is an elite artillery unit, so it has 7 combat points, 3 defense points, but I come to that in a second. And yeah, I want to shoot towards a target that's in range. For an artillery unit that's normally 2, this one can, I think, also shoot 3 spaces away, but then it will lose some hit points, or it will not hit that well, let's put it that way. And how do you know what the stats of those units are? For all units that are in the game here, there are those reference cards here. Again, they look absolutely awesome. They tell you what their combat value is, their defense value is, how much replacement points or their life points is, how far they can move, and their attack range for a artillery unit. Normally it's 3, but this has the long range strike. So as I mentioned, you may launch an artillery attack against a target within 3 distance, but this implies -2 accuracy, let's put it that way. And successful attack inflicts casualties of -1 at most, but that's the same for the artillery attack. So in this case, we want to hit that machine gun section here, because right now it's still on those mountains, and mountains protect them. So for a later assault or close combat, this would be not really good for the Tsarist army here. It is in range, so 1-2 spaces, that much is clear, so I don't need to use the long range strike. And as I have the observer within range, so 1-2 spaces away, I also get a bonus for that artillery. So this is now a +1, because this observer 1-2 more or less tells the artillery, hey, there is the machine gun section, and now this heavy artillery has an attack of 8 instead of only 7. The problem is, because this machine gun section is here on those mountains, this gives the machine gun section a +1 on defense, so it's basically evens, everything is being evened out. So we are really talking about 8 versus 4 in this case. And again, the special abilities of the Russian artillery observer are mentioned on the unit card here accordingly, so you really can tell right away when looking on those cards what they can do. And now we will see our first artillery strike. Again, we have the 8 versus 4. Keep in mind, he gets a +1 of the observer, but the machine gun gets a +1 on defense because it's stationed on a mountain space here. And now you would do a simple calculation. So you take the 8, subtract the 4 defense point, that's the 4. So 4 is our hit point pretty much. So the artillery player or the Tsarist army is looking for a die roll that's not larger than a 4 in this case, because again, this is our target number. So let's see how it rolls. That's a 6. That's really, really unfortunate. So the artillery missed, even though it had the observer right next to the machine gun section. And this was really, really unfortunate for the Russian player. This was now the opening phase. Of course, the defending player could also have played a battle card, but he decided not to do so. And after this pointless opening phase, we come to the central phase. And again, I will do something relatively stupid, but I want to show you how this game works, and I want to do that in under 10 episodes or so. Now we would go into the, let's say, planning for this round. I think I want to move this line cavalry towards the front line here, and normally you would be allowed to move a line cavalry up to 2 spaces. It doesn't really matter if those spaces are mountain or whatnot, or these plains here, that's 2 spaces. If you are beginning your movement on a road, you're tracing your path along the road, and you're ending your movement along the road, then you can double your movement points. So in this case, the line cavalry can move up to 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I think this is what I want to do, but right now I'm only planning it. So I will place it here, and this will be my target. This was my very first action out of 3. I think next I want to move that guard here, and would also want to bring it into position to attack the machine gun here in, I think, maybe the next round or so. This was my second action, and then I can still do a third action, and I think this time I want to do my artillery action again. So I want to fire, and again I want to fire towards these mountains here where the machine gunner is waiting for me. So I will announce that I want to shoot with this heavy artillery on this space here. It's still within 2 spaces. The observer is here, so there is not a problem. I can reach it right away. In theory, the attacker would also be allowed to play a battle card, but apparently he did that already in the opening phase. So now we would go over to the defending player. We'd ask him, hey, do you want to play a battle card? He says, no, I don't want to do that. And then we would jump into the, let's say, resolution phase. First of all, we would do any card operations. We haven't played any battle cards, so we can skip that. Next, we would perform our move actions. This is something we can do. And this is something I have to do. So I cannot take it back, for example, and say, I'll plan it, but I don't want to do it anymore because you play this or that battle card. No, that's not possible. So let's do the movement first. Right now, it really doesn't matter. So let's move the line cavalry 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces here. Then we can remove those flags. The same would be true for this guard here. Again, we can remove the flags. This was the movement step. Then we would do the railway actions. We haven't planned any. Next, we would go over to the artillery action. And yes, we did that. So this heavy artillery will shoot towards that machine gunner there. We already know the drill. They are on the mountains here. It's in range of an observer, this machine gunner here. So that's 8 versus the 4. Again, our target value is a 4. So let's roll the die. That's a 2, good enough. And this inflicts 1, let's call it damage. So we are losing 1 replacement point here. So not sure if I already mentioned it, but this is the first hit. Then it would go to orange, second hit. Then we would see a third hit. It would be red. And when it takes another hit, then this unit would be removed from the battlefield. But with an artillery attack, you cannot do more than 1 attack point here in this case, or damage point. So that was the artillery action. And this was also the end of the central phase. Next, we come to the closing phase. And again, we would ask the defending player, do you want to play a card in the closing phase? He says, no, I think I don't want to do that. So we can end the round and hand everything over to the 4th Austro-Hungarian army defending Limanowa. And the first thing that those guys do is to roll for reinforcement. So we are rolling a die on a 1 to 4. We are allowed to progress that token 1 space. And again, when we reach the 9th space here, we would get those 3 units into our reinforcement area. That's a 1. That's perfect. So we can advance on the Krakow track here. And that's pretty much the beginning of the turn. And then it's the opening phase for the 4th army. Do you want to play a card during the opening phase? And I think, I guess I can do that too. So I will also play the disruptive fire attack. So one of my artilleries will be allowed to fire an attack. And I think I want to use my heavy artillery here and want to target the line cavalry down there. That's a 7 versus a 1. That's already a 6 basically. We have the observer next to the line cavalry or in range. So it's on a mountain space here, so it even has a range of 3, but right now that's only a 2. So it's 8 versus a 1 in this case. That's a 7. We can not roll higher than a 6 in this case, so this is an auto hit. First of all, the line cavalry takes 1 point of damage, and then the card also says it has to move 1 space away from the artillery, and if it cannot do that, then apparently we have to lose. So let's move it back here. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, who is now do the movement, but the way I read the card, I think it's really the player that controls this card. So I think he will now move this unit back here. That's a good thing. So before it can attack again, it has to move here. So we really pushed it back. That's really important. This was the opening phase, and then we come to the planning phase. So I think I want to move these hussars closer here to really try to defend my tactical and strategic goals here. So I will mark those like this. The problem is they are leaving the road here, so they don't get any bonus here. That's pretty much 2 spaces they would be allowed to move, but right now that's okay. That's the idea at least. Then I want to move those cavalry or this cavalry unit closer to the strategic and or tactical goals in the northeast. So I will mark those for movement like this. Again, they can move up to 2 spaces. And by the way, infantry units only can move 1 space. The same is true for artillery units, and they can also double their movement points if they start and end their movement on a road. I still have 1 more normal action, and I think I want to use my heavy artillery unit again. And why not, shoot again towards those guys here. They are still in the range of the observer here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 spaces. The observer is on mountains. It gives them a +3. So again, this artillery will attack with an 8. It's not really needed, but I think it's still good anyway. And I'm now also considering to initiate a close combat from my machine gun section versus those guards here. It's not really a good idea, but again, I want to show you how things work out in this game, so I will do it like this. Normally this is really a very stupid idea. I would never do that in this situation. So I will mark those like here, and you can have unlimited amount of close combat actions as long as you have enough unit adjacent to enemy units right now. Of course, every unit can only do that once, but let's keep in mind we may have other units later on, maybe along this road here, then they would also be able to launch an attack, and this is not being taken away from my 3 core actions. This was all of my planning. Next, we would ask the defending player if he would play a battle card. But keep in mind, the attacking player already played one. And he says, yes, I think I want to do that. That's something that you have to play in the central phase. It shows you it has to be played when you are the defending player. That's the green symbol here. And the order is till the last man standing. One of your attack units is to fight with +4 defense points during combat. Wow, that's really a downer for the Austro-Hungarian army. So this means that this guard section now has a 7 and a 7 for its attack and its defense points. This is really huge, and there's a great way to track those stats here. So this table here, so normally the guard would be a 7 and a 3. So 7 attack points, 3 defense points. But because of the till last man standing card, it gets 1, 2, 3, 4 more defense points. So it's now a 7 and a 7. For this one unit clash, it really doesn't make sense to use this table. But in bigger clashes where more and more units are involved, this is definitely helping a lot. And yeah, this was really the planning phase. Next, we would resolve our actions. First thing would be to move our units. So let's take those cavalry, the Ulan, and move them closer up northeast. Then we do the same for the hussars here. They will also move closer to Neusandes here. This was already our movement. Next we would do the artillery actions, and we announced an artillery attack from this heavy artillery towards this line cavalry here. So that's an 8 versus this 1. So again, this is an auto hit. We don't have to roll a die. This time this unit does not have to move away, because we haven't played the battle card, but it still takes 1 point of damage, or it's losing 1 replacement point already at the orange level. And then we would basically do those combats here. And this is not really absolute downer for the 4th army, because it's a 7 versus a 7 because of this till last man standing card. So it's a 0. We cannot do any hits. So if we would have at least 1 attack point left, we would still be able to roll a 1 on this die, but unfortunately that's not possible. And what's really more important now for the Russian player is that the defender will now get a basic attack. In theory, there is this attacker's additional attack in between those steps, but unfortunately, where is the machine gunner card? It doesn't have that ability. That's a pity. So now the guard will be able to hit back. So it's a 7 versus a 3. Normally they are located on this mountain space, so they would get a +1 each, but unfortunately it's be considered, because they attack, that they are no longer on this mountain space but rather on this space they are going to attack, so they don't get this bonus here. That's really a problem. So in this case, again, it's simply a 7 versus a 3, so they can roll the die. If they roll a 1, 2, 4, they do a hit. And wow, again, I'm incredibly lucky here, or at least the Austro-Hungarian player is very lucky here. So those guards missed those guys. But that's pretty much the end of that round for the 4th army, and I think I will call it a day for now. So you will definitely see a second walkthrough video really activating the remaining 2 army groups and hopefully show you some more battle cards, maybe 1 or 2 more combats, and I'm really planning to show you the train transport, and yeah, let's see how things turn out. And I really hope you are enjoying my little walkthrough of Heroes of the Great War Limanowa here. It's really a great game. Go check it out on Kickstarter. Again, you will find a link to the campaign in the description of this video. And yeah, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and until then, bye bye.